Hi, I'm David Ake with AP Photos. This week in Washington, the news bounced back and forth between the White House and the Hill like a ping pong ball. One way for photographers to cover a multifaceted story with a lot of moving parts is in the faces of the players. So for this week in Washington Photos, I give you the faces of Washington. Let's start with the expression on Paul Volcker's face as he testifies before the Senate Banking Committee. To make this frame of one of the president's top economic advisors, Scott Applewhite sat on the floor directly in front of Volcker and shot him with a telephoto lens. The image was later cropped as a tight square for even greater impact. Scott then turned around to make this frame of Chuck Schumer resting his head in his hand as he listened to Volcker's testimony. The gravity of the situation can be seen on both of their faces. The president's choice to head Health and Human Services, Tom Daschle, withdrew his name over tax issues. Photographer Manny Sanetta caught up with the former senator as he walked tight-lipped from a closed meeting with the Senate Finance Committee. Here, Susie Walsh caught the animated testimony of fraud investigator Harry Markopolos during a House hearing on the continuing Madoff scandal. Susan was also on the scene for an equally animated press conference with House Banking Chairman Barney Frank. Back down Pennsylvania Avenue at the White House, Ron Edmonds tripped the shutter capturing this glance from President Barack Obama to Vice President Joe Biden. They were there to announce the selection of Judd Gregg for Commerce Secretary. This all happened on the day Daschle withdrew. Tuesday was a tough day at the White House. Some might say that the strain of the day can be seen in the president's face in this picture by Pablo Martinez Monsivais. This was made during a visit to a second grade class. Or maybe he was simply listening to the students. You get to be the judge on this one. This extreme close-up captures the tension as Treasury Secretary Tim Geithner announces the cap on executive compensation, while President Obama looks on in this Ron Edmonds photograph. Switching gears entirely from tight to wide, Gerald Herbert let the body language of Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid tell the story as he turns to leave after talking to reporters about Tom Daschle bowing out. There were a lot of closed-door bargaining sessions this week as the Senate debated the president's economic stimulus package. Freelance photographer Lauren Burke found a great way to illustrate the story in this picture of Senators Susan Collins and Ben Nelson emerging from one such meeting. When the Senate debate over the bill ran late into the night, Lauren stepped outside to shoot the midnight oil burning in Senate Republican leader Mitch McConnell's office. Not all of the faces captured this week were of politicians. At Arlington National Cemetery, Susan Walsh was present when Maya and Cara Gaffney received the flag at their father's burial. Corporal Charles Gaffney Jr. died Christmas Eve in Afghanistan when his combat post was hit by rocket fire. And we'll finish this week with this nice Washington scene where Marine One looks like it's flying with a flock of birds past the Washington Monument. Photographer Gerald Herbert made this picture. On the Washington Photo Desk, I'm David Ake, Associated Press.